Literally, the word democracy means the people rule. Quick pop quiz. Who believes we, the people, are ruling in the United States today? Raise your hand. Look at that. One hand goes up. That's interesting, so we'll come back to it. But the point is, I ask this question all across the country. Sometimes I give this presentation in the afternoon and the evening. I'll give this presentation over 150 times by the end of this year. I ask that question everywhere I go, and almost nobody raises their hands. It is rare to see anyone raise their hands. And that, my friends, is a problem. But saying it another way, I think it's a good thing. It's not good that we, the people, don't rule, but I think it's a good thing that people are not raising their hands for that question. I think it's a good thing that we're being courageous enough and honest enough to confront reality, which is, notwithstanding what Mrs. Armstrong and our culture teaches us about this country, there is, in fact, a small ruling elite that are actually making these fundamental public policy decisions, and that our sacred right to self-government has actually been either stolen from us and or was always an illusion that we never actually had. That's a hard thing for most Americans to actually come to terms with, but it's a reality that whether you're in the Tea Party or the Occupy Wall Street movement or anywhere in between, more and more Americans are coming to that realization.
You're listening to activist and attorney David Cobb. Today's show, End Corporate Rule, Move to Amend. I'm Bonnie Faulkner. This is Guns and Butter.
That brings me to the second concept, which is the word sovereignty. Now, my friends, if I just had the word the sovereign on the board, who or what would you think of? Quick, the sovereign.
King.
King. I bet everybody in here, when I said the sovereign, the word that popped into your head was king. That's because sovereignty means the authority to rule. And 500 years ago, the king was the sovereign. The sovereign was the king. Those words literally were synonymous. And where, by the way, did the king claim his sovereignty or authority to rule? God. You don't get more legitimate. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. And so, I mean, to say that I get to tell Mark, this fellow right here, how to live his life because who my parents are? I mean, that's laughable. Even better, that I get to say how all of society is going to be organized because of the divine right of kings? Of course you laugh at that. That's ridiculous. That's foolish. That is utterly absurd. And 500 years ago, people just like you and me, we not only said it, but we believed it. My friends, I'm asking you to take a somber and sober moment here to recognize the question of sovereignty, either who has the authority to rule, deeper still, what are the processes and protocols by which rules get made. That may be one of the most important first principle questions that any human being asks of themselves. And, you know, folks, look, I'm a Green Party member, and I'm proud of that. And I'm also proud to say I work in respectful coalition with progressive Democrats on a day-to-day basis. I personally helped to bring Progressive Democrats of America into the National Move to Amend coalition. And I also work in coalition with Republicans and Libertarians when I can find common ground. And the blunt truth is, when it came to fighting the NDAA or the Patriot Act or other assaults on civil liberties, it's frequently Republicans and Libertarians that I find myself in close coalition with. I've worked in coalition with socialists and anarchists that I may not agree with on everything. Point I'm making is not so that you'll pat me on the head because I'm a coalition builder, but so that you'll appreciate what I mean when I say, in my 20 years of social change work, I've never had the privilege or the opportunity to work in coalition with a monarchist. And 500 years ago, that's all there were. And 500 years is the blink of an eye in human history. So when people tell me, oh, we can't amend the Constitution, that's too hard. I think, have you not been paying attention? For goodness sakes, the fabric of our society, throughout all of world history, throughout U.S. history, profound systemic changes have been made when people like me and you did the work to make the change. And now the text is going to get metaphysical on y'all, so hold on. You ready? We are all individually participating in creating our shared collective reality. Another way to say that is, if enough people think that something is true, if enough people act like it's true, it's true. It's true. Right? And so if it is true that the United States of America is fundamentally racist, sexist, and class oppressive, and if it is true that our social, political, and economic institutions are destroying the planet, and it is true, then I suggest we should start thinking and acting differently. We should start thinking and acting like we are, in fact, in a crisis. You know why we should start thinking and acting like we're in a crisis? Because we are! And I'll go further still. We should start thinking and acting like we have the sovereign authority to make the changes that are necessary. You know why we should start thinking and acting like that?
Because we do.
Because we do. I like this crowd. That's right. We need to start telling a different story, a story that is actually coming out of our felt knowledge about how we should be treating each other and this planet and the kind of social, political, and economic institutions that would reflect our best values. This is a very important question, the issue of sovereignty. And that brings me to another topic, which is legal personhood. My friends, please note that I did not write corporate personhood on the board. That's because I want us to understand legal personhood in this context means the ability to assert rights. And because it's legal personhood, very specifically, I mean the ability to assert rights under law. Saying it that way, isn't it obvious that this is not just an intellectual or legal technicality? The question of personhood or who gets to assert rights has been at the very core of most of the fundamental social movements in this country. It matters. It matters a great deal. And our entire history, at least in the United States, has been a struggle around how to define and answer that question. Who gets to assert rights and what does it look like when they do? This is really important. And the last concept that we're going to cover is the word corporation. Please note that corporation is equally important, and as such, I'll ask the same question. From what language does the word corporation derive? It's from Latin. Let's break it down. Corpus means body, and now for extra credit, anybody know the suffix tion? It means to have or create, or the quality of, the inherent quality. So literally, the word corporation means to have or create body. And in this sense, I mean literally physical body. Because we are taught in law school, and by the way, are there any lawyers in the crowd besides me that would admit it? It's a friendly crowd, y'all. No? Well, I'll just assert that in law school, we are taught that a corporation is a legal fiction. And for example, even if you weren't subjected to law school, but if you've heard that phrase, that a corporation is a legal fiction, even if you couldn't precisely define it, an honest question, if you've heard that a corporation is a legal fiction, please raise your hand. Really. Look at this. Over half the crowd, hands go popping up. So you heard a corporation is legal fiction. Corporation is legal fiction. Corporation is a legal fiction. My friends, that begs the question. What does the word fiction mean?
Not true.
Not true. Made up. Literally, I was taught in law school that a corporation is made up because it doesn't actually exist in the physical material world. You know, reality, it doesn't actually exist. But we will pretend like this group of people who have come together, the resources that they gather together, the contractual obligations that they make, the cultural assumptions, a very complex concept and idea. We will pretend like it's one thing in the material world so that we can treat it a certain way under law. And remember, if enough people think that something is true, if enough people act like it's true,
It is true.
It is true. Poof. A corporation is a construct. It is created collectively by us and society. That is a very important idea. And the word corporation comes from Latin because the first corporations ever created by the genius of creative, clever human beings occurred during the Roman Republic. Not, by the way, during the Roman Empire. And sometimes I wish we spent more time asking, what happens when a republic devolves into an empire? Because that might be an important conversation in the United States today. Just saying. As the great Texas comedian Bill Hicks would say, I'm just planting seeds right now. Maybe we'll talk about this later. But the point is, the Romans created the construct of a corporation for a reason. For example, y'all heard the phrase, all roads lead to Rome? Right? Here it is, 2,000 years later, and we still say that. Well, check it out. That road system was built, designed, as and by a Roman corporation. Likewise, the aqueduct system, that amazing bit of engineering that moved water all across the Italian peninsula without electricity, right? Humans are clever. parenthetically, one of the things that continues to fill me with such optimism and hope and confidence is the absolute knowledge